tell you, magical. So I can't wait for you to listen and watch Kate, because you are going to learn so much about life. She's going to be like, oh my God, I'm going to learn so much about life. That's putting a big thing on me. So anyhow, and there's my Facebook Live. Hey, I got something to say, peeps. By the way, if anybody out there has an easier way for me to record on Zoom and go into Facebook Live besides doing all that, please let me know. But now, let me tell you a little bit about Kate Foley before I bring her on. Kate is a licensed massage therapist and counselor, specializing in emotional and spiritual healing. She has studied and worked extensively in body work and healing, which I experienced for over 22 years, and herbalism for 4 years. Kate has a bachelor's degree in horticulture. I did not know that. A master's degree in counseling, and was a registered nurse for several years. It is her belief that health is our natural state and our bodies direct us towards wellness. Well, Kate, I am so excited, by the way, that I got to experience you before you came on, because all I have to say, let's start with Big Bird.
Right.
All right, Kate, first of all, how are you today?
I'm doing very well.
All right,
I'm
now,
excited. I'm excited to be here.
I like the one statement because I want to build on this. I said, what do you want to tell women around the world, or our friends that are male, which are tons out there and support us? And you said
Yes.
release convention and adopt a creative life. Well, when I went to see you for a massage, you were going to say quote unquote a massage. She's like, do you know what you're here for? And I'm like, I kind of know, but like, let's just go with the flow. So we're going to do hands-on and energy work. But the reason if anybody is watching this, you see Big Bird in the background, because one of my friends then, after I saw Kate, got it for me. Besides calling on guides that are, I don't know what you call them, angel form or whatever, she asked for animal guides, and Big Bird showed up for me. Everyone was like an owl, a hawk. So I can understand, Kate, why you would build on release convention and adopt a creative life. But I want to hear from you, because I just think when I think of Big Bird, I know I think of me, but I really think of you because of how you draw in the most creative things to help people.
Well, so convention, let's just talk about convention first.
Okay.
So, because so many of us have to adhere to convention just to live our lives, like we have laws that we have to adhere to, and it's really for our safety and security, and it's for, just following rules and conditions and standards.
I don't like rules, but I get it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, I know. And it's really a give and a take. We can't always be living in creativity. But so let me just deviate from convention and talk about creativity, because that's essentially, the big bird in our lives is the creativity. And so creativity, we're stepping outside of the rules. And it's really more of an allowing. We're allowing
Mm,
nature or Neil, God, to like enter our lives and shake things up.
mm.
Creativity really leads us to change, you know
Yeah.
so and it always requires a present state of mind. So like when I saw Big Bird, I was in a creative state. I was in an allowing state, and I was also being very present to you and
Mm,
to whatever you needed to see, whatever you needed to hear in that
mm.
moment.
So let's back up with that. Let's tell them a little
Yeah.
bit, because segue in what you do now, because you have had a few careers I can see. And I don't
Serpentine.
even know how to, it was so, I just want to say, I've had a lot of massage work. I've had a lot of energy work because of owning health clubs. I've experienced a lot of amazing people, right? And I've been very fortunate. But it was really awesome and magical for me. And it really touched my life in a different way to help me not only feel better physically, but guide me in where I wanted to go next on my journey.
That's great to hear.
Yeah. So tell them a
Love
little
hearing.
bit about what you do right now.
Okay, so I'll just tell you my philosophy because, there are so many healers out there and there's so many people helping people in various ways, like a financial advisor can be a healer, and it's just about like how we approach people and how we approach life. But what
Yeah.
I do is I feel like people walk into my space and they have their own answers. They have all of the answers to their problems. A lot
Mm.
of times what I'm doing is I'm just I'm listening. I'm listening to what's going on in their lives and I'm just kind of pointing out a different path. So it's really about pockets. So let
Mm.
me just back up a little bit. So, like, what's in our consciousness, so what's in our lives is in our bodies, you know? So it's kind of like a macrocosm, microcosm thing. And this goes layers and layers and layers. Like, I'm not going to get like too crazy and philosophical here, but what's going on the globe is also happening in our bodies as well on subtle levels. For
Mm.
some people, it's on a big level because we're all different and we're all experiencing life differently. But so, like, when people come into my space, when they come into my office, they're explaining to me what's happening in their lives. So they're telling me, well, this is also happening in my body. So we are metaphorically getting into what's going on for them. And so trying to solve that problem, if it's a problem.
So let's just back up a little bit.
Yep.
And I want to clarify what you said is that you already know the answer, because that struck me when I first came to you. You said people, when they talk to me at the beginning, they're actually telling me what they need.
Yes.
And you're saying they already know what
Yes.
they need.
Yes. I'll tell you what, it's probably 99% of the time people come in to see me and they tell me the answer almost immediately. And I have to really be listening. Some people come in right in the door and they tell me their answer. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, let's find out what your problem is first, because I think you just told me the answer.
Uh,
But it's all subconscious, like we carry all of our own answers with us all the time. But it's like just because I'm a healer of sorts, I know I'm carrying around my answers, but I need all the people in my life to point out all of my issues because I don't know. I'm like walking around telling people all of my answers, but I don't know that that's my answer. That's why we need each other, because we are each other's mirrors.
I think the most difficult, well, I can only speak for myself, but it's really difficult for us to sometimes accept help for others because you go, listen, I do this for a living. I should know better.
Yeah.
And I threw out that a long time ago. I'm like, wait a minute. I think the wise people that I know, they have other people in their life that are mentors and healers and guides.
Yeah.
And those are the people that I like look up to, that
Yeah.
they know that they can't see everything. But it did take me a while because I thought I had to know all of this and tap in when she said Neil. So for those of you who don't know, I call universe God Neil. And that's a long story for another show. But I
Right.
thought that I have Neil. So I'll just tap into him
Yeah.
and he'll guide me on everything. And he has all the answers. What I was not realizing at the time is, yeah, but he might bring those answers in human form. We need humans.
Yeah. Yeah. Neil is infused in all of our interactions. Even like, I have to bring this up because you had Alvina Pete on this show back in November, and I listened to that, and she brought up, she was like, in the middle of like making a decision or something,
Mhm.
and she saw out of nowhere, she was like walking in a park somewhere, and she saw a peacock. And the peacock, she was like so enamored with the plumage, and she saw a motor at the base of the plumage, and it like initiated something for her. And I
Mm.
thought to myself, there it is. There's a animal symbolism. Animals come to us all the time.
Yep.
Do we see it? Do we understand it? I don't know. I mean, like, how many times does God and Neil come to us in many, many different forms to try to get a message to us? But with Alvina, I thought to myself, oh my gosh, she's getting her answer and she's recognizing it. And she recognized it in that peacock. And I thought that's just so cool, you know?
Well, I try, but yet obviously doesn't work out every day.
No,
I talk to
not for any
Neil
of
and
us.
say, eyes open to see what you want me to see.
Yeah.
Eyes open, but sometimes we're so narrowly focused or stubborn or set in our ways that we can't see all the other stuff out there. But I do ask, like, okay, throw it to me. I know the doors are open. I keep hearing the doors are open. Can you please walk through? Today I was like, yo, Neil, I think I'm walking through the wrong doors.
But you know what? I, and this comes up all the time in my sessions. I think that there is a place for our stubbornness and our resistance and, not walking through the door. I know everybody talks about lessons. Oh, there's a lesson in this. Oh, there's a lesson in that. But I think it's a little bit deeper than the lesson. I think that, you know, there's like sub lessons there, so like yes, we want clarity. Yes, we want to progress into whatever we're supposed to progress into. We want to heal, absolutely. But there's like these steps along the way. And I'm one of those people that really values all of our emotions, you know? Like I
Yes.
really value the stubbornness and the doubt. I mean, doubt can be so valuable in helping us to realize our strength, helping us to realize
Oh,
um yeah, like it's like that resistance, when you're met with resistance, you're met with a challenge. And so that like makes you dig deeper into this person that we are. And then that can propel us even further, which I think is so cool about being human.
yeah. So I got a bunch of questions for you, but the
Okay.
one that was repeated over and over, and again, it's probably people that have listened to me, is I'm always talking about embracing all of your emotions, being honest with what's going on in yourself. Like, in order to shift your mindset into a positive, powerful mindset, you got to know what's really going on in there. And sometimes, even just, I call it scribble scrabble, writing it down, brain drain, you can get out what's really going on in there, so to be aware of it. What they want me to ask you, and this is my sticky wicket, I call it, is not getting stuck there. So when any thoughts don't serve you well, I don't like even saying positive and negative all the time. They're not good, they're not bad, they're not right or they're wrong. Do they
Right.
serve you well? So if those thoughts don't serve you well, and you're talking about being stubborn, whatever, is that a better way of reframing it? They're like, how do you know what, like Sandy always says, you don't want to get stuck there. It's okay to embrace it, but how do you know when it's too long not to be stuck there?
I think this is a personal opinion. I think that we end up getting stuck places because we're not fully accepting it.
Tell me
So,
more.
like, let's say I'm going to use myself as an example.
Okay.
I've had times, lots of times in my life where I've had a lot of self-doubt, and it's not comfortable. It's not comfortable to doubt yourself as a woman, as a practitioner, as a whatever you're doing, It's not comfortable. So I'm sitting in that discomfort, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to just get out of it. But that's what keeps me stuck, is just wanting to get out of it versus actually sitting with it and embracing it and saying, oh, well, hello, old friend. What do you have to teach me now? You know? And it's then when I actually sit and I say, I'm gonna actually embrace this. I'm gonna journal about this. I'm gonna really dive into this. That's when it moves every time. But I have to fully accept it.
So just to clarify, when you say fully accept it, do you mean being okay where you are right now? Being okay that that's how you feel?
Yes. And trying to understand it.
Okay.
No?
Like not feeling bad, not feeling guilty, okay that you're angry, okay that you're sad, okay that you
Yeah.
got hurt, okay
Yeah.
that you're frustrated. The
Yeah.
list goes on.
Yeah. Because so many of us, and I'm including myself, so many of us, like the sadness, the depression, whatever it is, anxiety, it's so uncomfortable. And I think we're conditioned to
Hmm.
think, oh, I got to move out of this. This is not acceptable. Here we are back at
Absolutely.
convention. Conventional wisdom says, oh, that's not good. Don't be anxious. Don't be depressed. We can't function that way. We're not productive. But if we just, it's an emotion and it's there for a reason. It's there for a reason. And it's directing us towards something deeper, which can be scary.
Yeah.
But if you sit with it, just sit with it and don't judge it. And that's so much of this is us judging ourselves, judging our emotions, judging these uncomfortable feelings, pain, you know?
It was a few, maybe not only even 5 years ago, that I realized I didn't fully embrace all the emotions because what people have expected of me, or I expected myself, is Sandy always knows the answer. She's always up. She's always positive. She's always going to spin it. She is joy. And I remember that I got injured, and at that time, it gave me space to take time to think about what I really wanted next without helping so many people. And I realized I wanted pure joy and abundance. And with the pure joy part came my knowledge that I wasn't fully embracing all the other emotions and allowing myself, because even well-meaning people around me were like, oh no, you can't be sad, you can't be angry, whatever. And so it all came out of my body. And then when I surfaced months later, there were a few people that didn't feel comfortable in my life because they were like, oh my God, you not even like, well, okay, you're upset. You're going to be good in 4 seconds, right? I'm like, no, I'm allowed to be sad. And they're not bad people. They just couldn't handle that. And I had to move on because they were, if you're a close friend, I don't want to always be up pippy skippy. You can't have pure joy without being the other side of it. And that was a really tough journey for me.
Yeah. And speaking to the people who didn't understand in your life, sometimes it's an education for them as well. Seeing their friend go through this, and then it gives them permission. And then they're like, oh my gosh, look at what she experienced. And then she came out of on the other side of it as like, a blossoming flower, pure joy.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of validity in observing someone else's journey, you know, and that's an experience all in itself.
And you have to be, for me, willing to know people are not in your life, all of them for the entire span of your life. There might be people for a minute, for an hour, for a year.
Yep.
But if you, especially with your close friends that you hang out with, you need to be all of you.
Yeah.
You really do. And if you can't, then that's okay. Like, that's
Yep.
okay. I
It's
always
okay.
say, bless and
And it's
release. You
also,
say love and release. It's all good.
yeah. And it's also understanding that we may be very different people at different times in our life,
Yep.
you know, always. And there are, again, coming back to convention, there's a lot of a lot of conventional rules out there that we have to stay friends with people all of our lives, or we have
Especially
to,
if you knew him from his first grade in kindergarten.
yes, yes. And I mean, and you know what? Sometimes we leave, we depart, we become different people, and then we reconvene with them
Yeah,
again.
come back
You
around.
know, and it is what it is. And I mean, I have people like that in my life that I've reconvened with, and it's, and you know, we're having a much better time now because we've gone through our changes and we had a
Uh,
separation. And you know, it's just nice to be able to allow for that kind of change in your life and
yeah,
other people's lives, you know,
yeah,
and not take it as an insult. Or, you know, if someone says to me, you know, Kate, we're just not on the same, we're not resonating right now. And if I can say, you know what, okay, that's okay with me. I let you go. I'm letting you go.
I love the way you say we're not resonating. I always say, I don't think we're spitting on the same saucer.
I like that better.
All right, I want to make sure we get this in because I can just see we could talk for days. And this is a big one about, and I want to make sure we get this one in. Women are naturally creative. We are natural alchemists, turning nothing into something. I mean, look at the embryo into your human. I want you to elaborate more on that.
On women, I mean, because I honestly, I think that women kind of take it up to another level. I mean, look at us. We are creative machines. I mean, that's what we do. I mean, look at our cycles. That's a creative venture all
You
in
could
itself.
say that, okay.
It's, but you know, if you really sink into that, it is it is nature in itself, our cycles, you know? And it's different every time. I mean,
Mm,
I think every woman can attest to that. But we go through uh, every month, and I think we continue to do that after we hit menopause. We continue to cycle through these creative stages, and we go through those times of the month where we're like irritable and we're resistant, and we go through all these physical changes. But you know what? I think men do too. You know, men are natural alchemists. I mean, look at all of the amazing pieces of art, and you know, uh, like you look at engineers. Engineers are like these amazing problem solvers,
mm.
and that's a creative mind. Like you have to, like, oh, what did Einstein said we cannot solve a problem with the same mind that created it. So it like we always have to step outside of this state of consciousness that we're in order to solve a problem. And how many problems do we have in the world? We always have problems. But anyway,
Yeah.
getting back to women as alchemists, we have very creative bodies, and that is nature. Nature is constantly creating and destroying. I don't think that we really like the idea of destruction, but if if you think about our bodies are constantly under destruction as well. Because I'm not going to get too sciencey with this, but our red blood cells are constantly dying. Our skin cells are constantly dying. There's constantly a death and regeneration going on
Mm.
until the final day. But you know, that lends itself to always being in this creative cycle, you know? And so if we go with that, if we go with the idea that, okay, well, you know, my body is constantly creating and destroying and creating and destroying, we can move with that. I don't think it's natural not to.
You know, I'm fortunate enough to teach a group of high school kids entrepreneurship. I'm actually going there after this. And one of the things we talk about, the biggest thing we talk about is the mindset
Yeah.
of an entrepreneur because it's
Yeah.
huge. Yeah. I mean, you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in what you're doing and against all the odds and the naysayers and how many times it doesn't work out, keep going through. And the one big thing we constantly talk about, and they're talking about, which I said I would ask you because I had them yesterday, was creativity. So they said, well, ask Miss Kate, what are some things they can do to get in a more creative state?
Hmm. You know what? The number one thing that comes to my mind, because I think this all the time to myself, how can I get into a creative state? Number one is take a risk. Do something that scares you.
Mm.
Humiliate yourself.
I don't know if these kids are going to go for that.
But I mean, that's the mindset,
Yeah.
like, what could I do that would humiliate myself? I mean, take a risk.
Wow. I can think of a lot of things.
I know, same here. I'm doing it right now. I could potentially really humiliate myself. But that's a creative state. But also, and
It
this is
is?
and this is really tough. This is really, really tough for people, what I'm about to say.
Okay. I'm
Putting
ready.
yourself into a state of allowing. So what that means is not controlling everything in your environment. And people can practice this. So, I mean, most of us want to control our environment for good reasons.
Yeah.
For safety and security, that's pretty much it. Safety and security, keep ourselves safe. But when you step into like any group setting or any place where you feel like slightly uncomfortable and you just allow things to be as they are, which also takes a present mind,
Mm-hmm.
you're in a creative state. And it's really interesting to observe yourself when you just allow things to be as they are. When you observe yourself, all kinds of ideas start coming in.
So let's be a little bit more concrete because I know that's what they're going to say. All right, so walk me through it. They're coming to a class and they're nervous. They're meeting new kids. They've never met them before. They don't know the teacher. What should they do? They walk in and then what? How can they create that state? Because the biggest thing they said to me is, I have things to do at home to get me in a creative state. They put on different music, they have different scents going,
Uh-huh.
they dance around, whatever. They're not doing that at school. So what
Right.
can they do? They walk into the room, they don't know anyone, new teacher, and they're nervous. How can they get in that creative state? They feel like they're
Well,
being judged by the other kids. That's a big thing.
yeah, see, that's all difficult. That's really difficult. That takes a lot of practice because, that's a tough area to be creative because that's actually like a very structured environment.
Yep.
So you're in a very structured environment, you have judgment around you,
Yeah,
perceived. The irony is everybody's thinking the same thing, you
absolutely.
know. They're judging me, but really they're just they're all in themselves. But yeah, that's a very difficult environment to become creative. It's kind of like letting go of all of those confines, but that takes practice.
Yeah.
Takes
And yet that's what
practice.
they're expected to do.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
look at my son. He goes to Tyler Art. It's all these restrictions and they're always critiquing each other's work.
Yeah.
And yet they're supposed to be creative in that environment. Like I would
Yeah.
be, can I stay after and do it?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I know. And you know what? But it still happens. They still can get into that creative state. And I would say it's really getting into like narrowing your focus and tuning everything out,
Yeah.
And how do you do that? It's practice
Yeah.
again and again and again.
Yeah.
The judgment is the worst. That's probably
Yeah,
the worst.
it
That's
is.
the crusher.
But a lot of these classrooms, the kids are so supportive that it makes, and the teacher, that it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's nice. Yeah.
Kate, I'm sad. We have to go. I know, Kate Foley, but before we do, because we only got through this many of the questions, how can they find you? How can they reach you?
So I have a website, which is soul soul-mechanics.com. And you can reach me by email. I'm also on Facebook, Kate Foley. And then I have a podcast,
Whoop, whoop.
which is Soul Mechanics on YouTube, and it's also
Oh,
on
cool.
Spotify.
Yay. Okay. And is there anything that we didn't get out that you wanted to get out to the ladies and men around the world, Kate?
I have like hours of things I'd want to say.
Well, next time, maybe.
Yeah, I
What
think
thought pops into your mind?
I think I would just say, being in a creative state takes a change of consciousness. So, you can't stay in the same state of consciousness if you want a change, you know? If you want to be creative, you have to step into, I see it as pockets. You have to step into a different pocket, slip yourself into a different pocket. And sometimes all that is like, you're looking at the wall, you shift, and now you're looking out the window.
Yeah.
Just as a metaphor. And sometimes it's just that simple.
I agree. Just turning your head. For me, I take it up a notch. I do a dance reset every hour.
Yeah.
Lift it out. All right, we got to go. My head got something to say, people. Come on. Kate had a lot to say. We would really appreciate you sharing, liking, and rating it. And if you didn't get to watch the whole thing, don't you worry. Calm down. We are going to put this on every single platform by this evening. It'll be on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. I know something called X, whatever. It'll be everywhere and on my website. I love you guys. Thank you for watching or listening. And you know what I'm going to say. Until next time, thank you, Kate, and toodles.
Toodles.